Hi all, welcome back. I'm Mia. Previously in week 4, we have looked at the theory, concepts and models of digital architecture. We also have looked at our week-by-week reflections and established our current understanding. We're on week 5 now, and this week we will be exploring a design field or area called parametric design. It's a design approach based on the use of parameters to describe sets of design. It's not entirely a new concept, but it has gained popularity for the last 10 to 20 years. To illustrate it better, here is a monumental architecture project called Gateway Arc. We can infer three design parameters of these projects: the height, the length, and the typical cross-section. What happens if we vary the height? So it might get smaller, it might get taller, or we might have a totally different shape of design. Parametric design is a process based on algorithmic thinking. Some of you might have heard about algorithmic thinking, but some of you might have not heard about it before. Parametric design requires a different set of understanding to look at design process. So please bear with me. How about if we view algorithmic thinking in another context? I suppose we are being tasked to bake a cake. What do we do? I think most of us will go to the internet and then search for a recipe. Personally, I will go for the easiest recipe. So after our research bit on the internet, we have found a recipe that we're gonna use. Usually after the list of ingredients, it comes with a set of instructions as follows. First of all, we might be looking at preheating the oven, preparing the baking tin, and second of all, we started to mash the banana, put them in a large mixing bowl, add the rest of the ingredients, in this case the wet ingredients, which is eggs, sugar and oil. And thirdly, we might be looking at adding the rest of the spices, flour, and bake them according to the recipe. So this set of instructions illustrate the way algorithmic is used. It's a step-by-step procedure that is used to solve a problem. So what can we learn from the baking recipe? An algorithm can be seen as a step-by-step procedure. However, they are fundamentally different with our recipe. As in, an algorithm is an ambiguous set of properly defined instructions. So the recipe should have been more precise, as in how many eggs, how many bananas, to be called as an algorithm. Also, algorithm expects a defined set of inputs to generate a well-defined output. Parametric design system is defined by its input algorithm and an output. For instance, we might have multiple inputs and they're gonna get processed to a set of instructions to generate an output. So some of you might ask, what are the differences compared to non-parametric design? What's so special about this? Algorithm can define any type of geometry. The method is to write this list of instructions. For instance, to get this kind of geometry on the right, these are the set of instructions. Draw the 4 circles, subdivide, and connect the corresponding points. So here's how the visual scripting works. So we've got the output of the same geometry, and we have the parametric model where the parameters are. So what happens if we manipulate these parameters? So The geometry on the right has more lines compared to what we've seen before because we modified the n parameters here, hence more lines are generated. Another example of how we can manipulate the parameters is how we can manipulate one of the radius of the circle, in this case circle number 3, and the geometry looks different just by changing the parameter. Here's my example that I generated a while ago. So parametric design allows quick interactions with the parameters to produce rapid design iteration. Parametric design, however, is not about the computer software or any particular syntax. It's not about Rhino, it's not about Grasshopper, but parametric design is more about logic, geometry, topology, and interaction.